All right. Welcome back to the channel. Devin Haney and Mikey Garcia face off. I think that was right before the Ryan Garcia fight with Francisco Fonseca last night. So they face off. They both talk about fighting each other. And man, I think that if that fight could be made, that would solve a lot of problems for both these guys. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. Devin Haney, the former 135-pound WBC champion. He's currently the WBC champion in recess, and the former, I think the IBF 140-pound champion and WBC 135-pound champion Mikey Garcia met up, saw one another, and did a face-off for a future fight. They're both with DAZN, and I think that is something, man, that should happen. And it should happen for a couple reasons, and I think that they might be one of the better options for each other. Now, first of all, you have Devin Haney. Devin Haney is in a funny situation, and Mikey Garcia is in a funny situation as well. Now, the funny situation with Mikey Garcia, with Devin Haney, is this. He was the WBC 100. He was the 135-pound WBC champion. But in his last fight, or after, I don't know if it was slightly before the fight or during the fight, he injured his shoulder. He had to have shoulder surgery. And when he had shoulder surgery, he was then moved out of this championship, the WBC champion, and he was put to champion in recess. Right now, they're going to be having a fight. The WBC is ordered a mandatory fight. I think it's a title it's not the title eliminator. I think it's for the title, the WBC lightweight title, a fight with Luke Campbell out of the UK and Javier Fortuna out of the Dominican Republic. Javier Fortuna is a PBC fighter, and Luke Campbell is a matchroom fighter. Not sure where that fight's going to be or when that fight's going to be, but after that fight happens, there'll be a new WBC champion, and Devin Haney, as a champion in recess, is supposed to be able to fight whoever that guy is, whoever that champion is, when he comes back. But I would not hold my breath waiting on that to happen. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen. It's just that, I've seen the WBC order things in the past, and, it just seems like the promoters have, with the WBC, a lot more leeway to say, nah, we're not going to do that. I've seen the WBC mandate fights with Dillian White and Luis Ortiz. They've mandated fights with, obviously, Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo. I don't know if they've ever mandated that, but they've had a title eliminator where the guy, Jermall Charlo, was supposed to become the mandatory, and I don't know if he ever actually became the mandatory. So, there's a bunch of different examples of the WBC doing that. So it's not guaranteed that Devin Haney is going to get a shot for that WBC lightweight title. And then if you look at the rest of the lightweight division, as far as where the belts are, they're all pretty much with top rank. You have Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez, who are supposed to be fighting each other. And both, if Lomachenko wins, Lomachenko's got his eyes on Gervonta Tank Davis. If Lomachenko wins, I don't really see a fight with Devin Haney happening, because it could have happened when Devin Haney was Vasily Lomachenko's mandatory. And actually, there you go. That's another example of, now, I believe Devin Haney was the #1 ranked guy No, because he fought a title eliminator and therefore he was going to become the mandatory. But I don't know if they've actually ever mandated the fight. But that's another example of somebody, Devin Haney himself, being presumably in line for a championship fight, but then the WBC does something that just kind of blows it out of the water. In that case of Vasily Lomachenko, he made him a franchise champion. Same thing that they did with Canelo Alvarez. So in the lightweight division, it's not going to be very, very easy to get a fight for Devin Haney against those other lightweight fighters, because Devin Haney is a very, very good fighter. He might be young. I wouldn't call him green. He seems like he's a very, very polished fighter, but there'll be some difficulty, or at least put it this way, man. I'm not holding my breath waiting for that stuff to happen. And that's no fault of Devin Haney, but that's just how I've seen the politics of boxing go. And that includes if Luke Campbell winds up being the WBC lightweight champion. Just because they're both represented by Eddie Hearn doesn't mean that fight is going to it doesn't mean that fight's going to happen, man. You know, just because of that, you would think it would make it easier, or you think that because both those guys would, at least in the United States, would be on the zone, that would make that fight easier to happen. But, you know, funny things happen, man, when the same promoter is dealing with two fighters in the same division. They tend, oftentimes, not all the times, but oftentimes they wind up trying to keep those belts amongst themselves and find something else for one of those guys to do. So that's, I think, is a situation with Devin Haney. And then you have Mikey Garcia, and Mikey Garcia is in a similar situation as well. Mikey Garcia he says that he wants to fight at 147 pounds, and he wants to prove himself to be a champion at 147 pounds. But it seems like a lot of the work is booked up at 147 pounds. You've got the two belts with Errol Spence Jr. An Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia rematch ain't happening anytime soon. It was such a one-sided fight that's not happening anytime soon. Mikey Garcia is not even on the radar from what we know of Manny Pacquiao in the WBA belt. So I don't see that happening for either one of those two belts. And then you have Mikey Garcia and Terrence Crawford. Now, Mikey Garcia and Terrence Crawford could be something that could happen. And if this was a year ago, I would say. If this was a year ago, I'd say, hey, man, maybe Mikey wouldn't want it, and Terrence Crawford would. But, man, the way that Terrence Crawford's been acting about not wanting to fight, you know, like who he deems worthy of fighting him, you know, you just don't know, man. You just don't know with Terrence Crawford what he would do. But there would have to be an arrangement worked out at the very least between Bob Arum and Mikey Garcia. And who knows whether or not those guys are going to actually do business with one another, because those guys have a checkered past as far as their business relationship goes. So it seems to me that Devin Haney, although his name is growing and he's becoming more popular and he's an excellent fighter, is a little bit tied. That 135-pound division is a little tied up, and he has the ability to beat any of these guys. And he's not with the promoter of any of the top guys, with the exception of maybe a Luke Campbell, if Luke Campbell beats Javier Fortuna. And that, in my opinion, is an if. That is definitely an if. It looks like things are kind of tied up for him. And the same thing with Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is going to be fighting Jesse Vargas on the zone. But, what is there after Jesse Vargas? So for me, I think that those two guys fighting would be an interesting fight. I think, maybe a year and a half down the road, that fight is something that those guys should both look at, man. I think, and they're both on right now. They both have contacts, or both have the ability to fight on the zone. And the zone, I mean, they have to be happy about Mikey Garcia Devin Haney is one of them. They're up and coming guys, man. And honestly, man, there's one thing about Devin Haney that definitely I noticed yesterday. I've noticed for a while that young dude puts in a lot of work on getting his name out there and promoting himself. So, over time, man, that's going to really pay off for him. He and his father walked in, I believe, with the right idea about how to handle their business in boxing. So that's going to be to the benefit of the zone. So maybe those two, can work out that Mikey Garcia fight. As far as how the fight would go down, the sooner the better for Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia would be the toughest fight that Devin Haney has had to date for sure. He is a very, he will test the chin he should be able to, at a point, test the chin of Devin Haney. But looking at the guys stand next to each other, you realize that Devin Haney is significantly bigger than Mikey Garcia, at least in his height. In his frame, he looks bigger than Mikey Garcia, but Mikey Garcia is an excellent fighter, man. And so is Devin Haney. Would love to see it. Hopefully that fight will take place. And because I think, it's a good fight for boxing, man. And, may the best man win. Personally, I would lean towards Devin Haney to win that fight, especially if it happens like in a year from now. After Devin, if that fight happened after Devin Haney got a shot, got his 135-pound belt back, and maybe it moved to 140 and Mikey Garcia was willing to meet him at 140, maybe that could happen. But maybe probably one of those guys would have to get a 140-pound belt. And that is another hang up to it, because most of all of the 140-pound belts right now are top rank bait. That's a top rank world. 135 pounds and 140 pounds are a top rank world right now. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.